great to be back. I think after that introduction, we can go straight to Q&A. Let me tell you why I know that every word that Robbie just said on behalf of Chazaq is in fact the truth. Because following part one of our two-part series entitled Igniting Sparks in a Dark World, I got a bunch of emails, which we're going to try and address as we segue into part two. So there's three major emails I see. First email I got was from Rabbi Gad Friedman saying, "Dear Chanan, I think you stole my tie." No. For that email, we don't have to go through. But the second email we will go through, which is the following. It is, I got a bunch of emails saying, "Rabbi, can you repeat some of the stuff that you did in the first part of our two-part series," which I will touch on. And then a number of people said, Rabbi, this is very interesting. Some of the concepts that you articulated, I've never heard before. I never thought of God in that way. So maybe that's a good way for us to start our discussion here this evening. For those of you who were not here for part one, we had about, I think, 275 million people live. But if you missed it, here's what we did. We said that a good public speaker tries to keep the discussion to 6 or 7 points. Thankfully, Chazaq, the beloved host of this evening's seminar, the two-part series, has 6 letters. Last week, we covered CHA in discussing parts of Chanukah. We spoke about choice, that although we are not necessarily, we don't control what happens to us, we can choose how we respond to what happens to us. The H of Chazaq was how we respond to adversity. And then the A, which I think triggered a bunch of emails, was Almighty and how people think of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and why many people have an erroneous concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So let's start off with that concept of how is it that there's so many people have a concept which might be a little bit off kilter of a classic Torah hashkafa. So I think the best way to describe this, let me tell you a story, and we'll try and figure out this riddle together. Picture the scene, ladies and gentlemen, a long stretch black limo, tinted windows, the chauffeur of our limo, let's call him James, dark glasses, cruising down Wilshire Boulevard. There are no street lights on. Now, if you were with us last week, you'll recall one of the heroes of our story was Moshe, who was playing with the soccer ball in the front of his home. There's James, dark stretch limo, tinted windows, dark glasses, street lights are off, and he's cruising down 80, 90 miles an hour. Our cute little 5-year-old little Moshe is playing outside his house. James gets off the freeway, and the first road after the exit that James takes is the road where little Moshe is playing with his soccer ball. James turns around the corner at 97 miles per hour, and he manages to slam on brakes right in front of Moshe. The question, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is how did James know that Moshe was there? Again, large black limo, tinted windows, dark, no street lights. The answer, it was broad daylight. Now, how is it that almost every single one of you, as soon as I said dark, tinted, and there's no street lights, in your mind's eye, pictured the scene of a dark night, and this poor kid is about to meet his maker? So my friends, that's called theater of the mind, where we subliminally create an image in the mind's eye of the listener. Often, over a period of time, we hear the concept of Hashem, we hear on a subliminal level, and it's jolting sometimes to dispel that. Let's review 1 or 2 points from last week, and I'm going to continue using the acronym ZAQ to finish the spelling of Chazaq. Z. Z, my friends, stands for Zoe Kopelowitz. Who was Zoe Kopelowitz? Every single year in New York, this is before the pandemic, there's a race which is measured over 26 miles called the New York Marathon. The hero of our story, ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Kopelowitz, in 1998 came dead last. Zoe Kopelowitz, however, 46-year-old woman, had a debilitating disease, multiple sclerosis, MS. It took her 27 hours and 32 minutes to complete the New York Marathon. What she said afterwards to the press underscores one of the important points we said last week about attitude. And I want you to take this to heart. It's incredibly insightful. She said, and I quote, "When you are born, God gives you a television set with 100 channels, and 99 of them have wonderful programs on them. One has only static. Everybody, with no exception, has that channel with static on their set. The only difference is the kind of static you were given on that one channel. For some, that static is a physical challenge. For others, it's a financial challenge. For some, it's the kind of background that they had, but we all get a channel with static. What Zoe said, which dovetails over to our concept of choice, which we spoke about in the concept of enlightening Chanukah, is you can sit in front of that one channel for the rest of your life and look at the static, or you can get up and change the channel. Zoe got up and changed the channel and would not allow a physical ailment to derail her or for herself to become a victim. Instead, she became a victor. We spoke also last week about the concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees the full picture. We are like looking through a keyhole, and we have a very myopic and restrictive view of what goes on in the world. To review last week, I'll tell you the story of John Audubon. Some of you may know, a renowned naturalist who one day was looking at a butterfly trying to struggle out of a cocoon. And apparently John saw this baby butterfly kicking the inside of the cocoon and struggling to break through this cocoon. And because he was a sympathetic person with a big heart, he said, I need to help this poor butterfly. He took a scissors and he cut open a piece of the cocoon. Lo and behold, the butterfly exited the cocoon, took 3 steps and died. John later did research on those kind of butterflies, only to learn that in the struggle of these baby butterflies to exit the cocoon, they learned to develop certain muscles which are essential to develop the underlings of their wings. Without that struggle, those muscles atrophy, they will never fly, they will die. The analogy, my friends, for us in this journey called life is clear. When we see struggle, we think that it's quote unquote bad. The Almighty in his infinite wisdom knows that it's causing us to dig deep, to develop muscles that would otherwise lie dormant. Why is that? It's because Just like we think of James in the tinted limo, and we think of it's dark outside, we've been told by pop culture that a happy life is a pain-free life. My friends, the Torah tells us there's nothing further from the truth. In fact, the Rambam says in a 4-tiered hierarchy, the most benign pain that we can possibly have is financial pain. The concept of zuz, the concept of money being round, money comes and goes, it's awkward, it's stressful, if people can't make things eat, but at the grand scheme of things, it's the most benign pain. The next level up in terms of pain, according to the Rambam, is one's health. We know intuitively that all the money in the world cannot buy good health. The penultimate level of pain, as the Rambam writes, is vicarious pain. The pain that a parent feels for a child, that one cannot almost do anything about, but a loved one is making mistakes, and the pain for the parent is incredible. What is the highest level of pain? What's the zenith of the hierarchy? According to the Rambam, it's no pain at all. The worst possible thing is indifference. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu directs us, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us in the cocoon, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us in a situation where we have to flex muscles, where we feel uncomfortable, it's out of absolute love, because the Almighty knows what's best for us. He knows which muscles we have to flex. The worst possible thing is, God forbid, to have a relationship with the Almighty that is indifferent. So we said the fourth letter of our acronym Z stands for Zoe Kopolovitz. Let's move on to A, the penultimate letter of Chazaq, which is a issue that I hear from many, many people, which is, Rabbi, I've made mistakes in my life. I've failed this. I messed up this business. A, and I will explain how this relates to Chanukah, is the word again. The Almighty will give you a chance again and again and again. How do we know that? What is the worst national sin of our nation? The worst natural sin seems to be the Chet HaEgel, the worshipping of the golden calf. Does the author of the Torah hide this clear mistake of our people? Absolutely not. It's front and center of the Torah. The Almighty is saying that people are fallible. We make mistakes. And the important lesson is, if Klal Yisrael came back from the Chet HaEgel, you, my dear Yid, no matter what you think that you did, I'm going to give you a chance again. Another clear example being when the greatest person ever to sojourn the planet, Moshe Rabbeinu, came down with the Aseret Aduros, the 10 Commandments. We know the first of the 10 Commandments, on seeing the Chet HaEgel, were smashed into little pieces. What we have, so to speak, in the Kisah HaKavod is this second set. Why is it that the first set, the one that is crashed, the one that is smashed, that is the set that is in the most sacrosanct part of what will be in the base Hamikdash? Why is that? Because, my friends, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us that we can all pick up the pieces of our lives, that we all make mistakes, and those mistakes, those stumbling blocks, become the stepping stones for our lives. The Midrash says something incredible about the broken shards of those first of the Aseret Adibros. The Midrash says that a bird flew down and grabbed one of those shards of the broken 10 Commandments and flew over the valley of Elah and dropped that shard. And 1,000 years later, David HaMelech, when he leaned down with his catapult in the altercation with Goliath, with David and Goliath, it was that shard that he picked up, and he slew Goliath with that shard, that exact piece of the broken part of the first of the 10 commandments. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us that we are strongest in the broken parts. It's the mistakes we make. It's the missteps that become the most robust part of the way we grow in this journey called life. So the A of Chazaq is again and again, the Almighty will allow us to come back because He created a phenomenon called tshuva. Before the world was created, Chazal tell us tshuva was in the world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu created time, which means if we, out of love, return to the Almighty, the Arizal says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can take our new intent and dub it on the old action. It's a miraculous concept where if we sincerely are contrite and we sincerely return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we see in the next world the cut version, not the uncut version of our lives. We move on to the final letter of Chazaq, which is Q for question. The question that I think over the many, many years of me being involved in speaking at many retreats and events, I think is one of the most oft asked questions. And that is a question I think people are embarrassed to ask, a question that I think people are ashamed is, Rabbi, how do I know Hashem loves me? I feel abandoned. This is going on in my life. I feel the pain. It's been compounded by the pandemic. How do I know HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me? My friends, the way we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you, the Q of question in the acronym Chazaq, the last letter of the word Chazaq is there. It's not by chance that the parshas of the Torah, which deal with Yosef HaTzadik, coincide with Chanukah. What happened in the plight of Yosef HaTzadik is when the brothers sold Yosef to Mitzrayim, he was placed in a caravan of people going to Mitzrayim. At the time, the general containment of those caravans was toxic tar. But in that particular caravan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put Besamim, a beautiful scent. And Rashi says it was very strange to have such a beautiful scent. Why? It was dark. It was scary. Yosef HaTzadik was being sold away from his brothers to an unknown land. But in that beautiful smell, the Almighty was saying, Yosef, I am here. I haven't abandoned you. I love you and I'm with you. In Chanukah, it's no coincidence that at the same time as dealing with Yosef HaTzadik, we have a similar concept. If you look at the main two miracles of Chanukah, we celebrate the miracle of a group of a few guys somehow overcoming the greatest army in the world. That was a miracle that was necessary. We celebrate that miracle. But there's another miracle that we seem to celebrate, which if you drill down, we don't really need. And that is the oil itself. The Pnei Yeshua says that the truth be said is we didn't necessarily have to have the pach shemen. We could have used a shemen tameh, and we could have used it until the tahor oil was available. But we celebrate this pach shemen, this beautiful pure oil, and we use that oil, and we will next week to ignite the menorah. Why? Even though we don't need it, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying that the last Yom Tov in history is Chanukah. It's winter, my friends. It's dark. It's been a scary several months. When we ignite the menorah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling us, his beloved nation, just like he told Joseph, I haven't abandoned you. I'm with you. The smell of the besamim. We don't really need the oil as part of the so-called miracle of Chanukah. But when we ignite the menorah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to us, I know, Kinderlach, it's dark out. I know it's been scary, but I didn't abandon you. I'm with you. I love you, and I'm with you. The story of Chanukah, dovetailing with Yosef HaTzadik, is to underscore the fact that it's a kush. It's a kiss from the Almighty to say, I'm with you as you ignite the candles. I have never abandoned you. The story of Chanukah, my friends, is really the attack of the Greeks, not on us physically, but on us spiritually, on the most important thing that each and every one of you have, and that's a Yiddish neshama. There is no more powerful spiritual entity than the DNA of a Yiddish neshama. That's what the Greeks tried to take away from us. And I want to tie this together with a story that I believe will bring out why we are here, what Chanukah is all about, and I believe the incredible work that Chazaq does. The story is told, my friends, of a reunion 30 years after high school. And on one side of the dance floor was Larry, and on the other side of the dance floor was Jennifer. It had been so long, and Larry was watching Jennifer, and she was so erudite, she seemed so refined in her mannerisms, that Larry went to the principal that had been the principal of high school and said, "Is it possible for you to introduce me to Jennifer? I just see the way she carries herself. I'd like to ask her out on a date." The principal said, "There's no problem, Larry, I can introduce you to Jennifer, but before I make that introduction, I need to remind you that Jennifer is blind." So Larry gets her phone number, he asks on a date, one date leads to the other, chasana, hareya, boom, they get married, they start their journey of life together in New York, and Larry's love for Jennifer grows, and he sees the fact that Jennifer, his beloved wife, can't see a beautiful sunrise, can't see the beautiful flowers that the Almighty has created, and it starts paining him. He starts doing his research, and he finds in the Cleveland Clinic, there's a particular operation called a retina implant, where if it's successful, his beloved wife will be able to see again. And after doing some research, he reaches out to the Cleveland Clinic and he runs back into their duplex. He says, "Jennifer, I found the operation, and if this works, you'll be able to see." He said, "Unfortunately, there is a waiting period for 17 years." And as he said that, as he says that to Jennifer, he sees a tear well up in her eye, and the pain of seeing his beloved wife in such a depressed state it goes into him like a knife. The next day, Larry runs in and says, "Jennifer, you're not going to believe this. We leapfrog to the front of the line. We're next. I'm going to help you pack your bags. We're going to the Cleveland Clinic. We're going to have the retina implants. We're going to have the operation." And lo and behold, bags are packed. They're off to Cleveland. And before they leave, Larry says, the way the doctors explained is after the post-operation, as you remove the baggage from your eyes, the Band-Aid from your eyes, if the operation is success immediately, you will see when the bandage comes off within seconds, you will see. And I need you to know, my darling Jennifer, if the operation is a success, you will look at somebody who has a cane and dark glasses. You see, Jennifer, I too am blind. And off to the Cleveland Clinic, the operation, then the post-op room, the bandage, the big band, the drum roll. This is the moment is about to come off. And Jennifer looks, and lo and behold, she sees her beloved husband, Larry, with the dark glasses and the white cane. And within a day or two, they pack their bags back to New York, and their life continues. But sadly for Jennifer, Larry becomes a ball and a chain. She has to schlep him around, and she wants to see the world. She's never seen the world. And weeks going to months and going to years. And eventually she said, "My darling Larry, I love you, but I cannot continue this. We need to have a divorce." Larry loves his wife so much. He said, "If that's what's going to make you happy." He calls his brother, and before he leaves the house for the last time, Larry says to Jennifer, "I wrote a note under the pillow in the master bedroom," and with a click, he closes the door. Jennifer goes up to the master bedroom, looks at the envelope, opens the letter from her soon-to-be ex-husband, Larry, and my friends, this is what the letter said. From Larry to Jennifer: "My darling Jennifer, I love you more than words can say. I want you to be happy. I want you to see the Alps. I want you to see all the colors. There's only one thing that I ask of you. Please look after those eyes. You see, Jennifer, they were my eyes. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before we come down to this world, he blows in each and every one of us, each and a part of himself called the Yiddish neshama, and he says, look after that neshama. That is the parting call of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're in this world, he says one thing, look after that neshama. And the Greeks try to take that away from us. The Greeks try to crush the light that we bring to the world. My friends, Chanukah is the zenith of the Jewish holiday, of the Jewish year, and it stands for the calling card of the Almighty. Look after that neshama. There's 7.3 billion people in the world. 14.7 have been given the spiritual DNA of a Yiddish neshama. The Almighty is saying, look after that neshama, because that neshama is an or. It's a light lagoyim to the nations. It's a light to your family, and it becomes the lighthouse of morality, of ethics, and of everything to this world. Chanukah reminds us, look after that neshama. Organizations like Chazaq are indefatigable in the work that they do to ignite that Pintel Yid. They ignite the Yiddish neshama, which for some people, for months, others years, lies dormant. What the work of Chazaq does in igniting that Yiddish neshama is not only magnanimous, it's eternal, because they're giving back an eternity to each and every one of these beautiful children. Chanukah is about looking after that neshama. Chazaq is an organization that day in and day out does the Almighty's work. My friends, as we light the menorah next week, please try and take heed of our journey here. The acronym Chazaq, that we have a choice, that the Almighty loves you, that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The fact that the Almighty is not some old wise man out to get you, but he loves and adores you. And the fact that each and every one of you have Kaviyachal, a piece of the Almighty himself, that he blew into you with the calling card, look after that neshama. You'll notice when you light the menorah next week, flames tend to move up, because a flame, like a neshama, will always look to actualize the potential, always look to go up. Each and every one of you should go from strength to strength. Know that you are handpicked by the Almighty. Look after that neshama. You should have a Chag Sameach. I wish for all of you a bench, beautiful things, and to Rabbi and Chazaq, Be'ez Hashem, keep lighting neshamas and keep doing the beautiful work that you do. Chag Sameach to everyone.